Good morning. Welcome to the live in-person and live Zoom worship service of the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside. Mahalo. Our opening hymn this morning is number 77. Seek not far for beauty from the gray hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you. Please stand in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 77, Seek Not Far for Beauty. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on your YouTube channel and our virtual attendees. I'm Laura Luna, a friend of the worship committee. Myself and Grace Pruis will be your worship associates today. Other members of the worship committee who make this service possible include Alec Peck, our music coordinator, Adam King, who is monitoring our visual and online connections, and Kate Lewicki, who is in charge of our sound system. We welcome you to join us this morning with an open mind and an open heart, and with muted electronic devices, please. Thank you for joining us here in person, and thank you for joining us remotely by Zoom, where we will continue live streaming and posting these services on YouTube channel. We came together this morning to remind one another that we are connected in mystery and miracle, awareness and gratitude. We come to this place to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life, and to bring our gifts of love and service to this community and to each other. Welcome to this space of love, support, fellowship, and justice. We are glad that you are here. Before we move into the service, there are just a few announcements we would like to share. We will mention several websites and email addresses and phone numbers. At the end of the service, we will leave up a slide with all of this information, and it is available on our website. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all volunteers who came in yesterday to participate in the first phase of deep cleaning of the sanctuary at Parish Hall. After today's service, we will be moving the books from behind the dais at the vestibule. The carpet in the sanctuary is scheduled to be cleaned on Thursday. Your valuable assistance is sincerely appreciated. Don't forget to join us next Sunday, October 1st, after the service for this first Sunday luncheon. Next week, our theme will be chili. All donations are welcome and will be contributed to the church fund. Kate and Robert will be cooking up a storm again this year. Our lunch series will begin October 21st at 1:30 p.m. at the Oktoberfest meal. Please join us for good fellowship and friends. Tickets can only be purchased in advance. Suggest donation is $25. Children 6 to 12 is $12. Those under 5 are free. This concludes today's announcements. And now I invite you to sit back, take a slow, deep breath as we move into the worship hour. You are welcome to read with me the mission statement of our church. Our mission is to foster a diverse religious community that celebrates life, affirms the individual, encourages spiritual growth and open thought, and works to advance social justice and environmental sustainability. Today's speaker and leader of our in-gathering water communion ceremony is fellow UUCR member Alec Peck. Alec has been practicing UU for 23 years, was raised in the UU church, chosen by his father, who raised Quaker, and his mother, who was raised Jewish, though both have a humanist in practice. Alec has studied natural science at Creighton University, a Jesuit institution, and is now completing his PhD at UC Riverside. While serving as chair of the worship committee and secretary of the board of trustees here at UUCR. The tradition of fall returns offers an opportunity of in-gathering to share and welcome one another back after the summer season. The annual water ceremony is a UU ritual that brings us together in body and spirit as we enter into the new church year. The water communion, also sometimes called the water ceremony, was first used as a UU worship service in the 1980s. Members bring to the service a small amount of water from a place that is special to them. During the appointed time in the service today, Participants one by one will pour their water together into a large bowl. As the water is added, the person who brought it tells why this water is special to them. The combined water is symbolic of our shared faith coming from many different sources. It is often then blessed by the congregation and sometimes is later boiled and used as the congregation's holy water in child dedication ceremonies and similar events, or poured into the community garden. We have two lightings of the sacred flames. The first is the occupied Indigenous Peoples Remembrance Candle. The second is the lighting of our own chalice, the symbol of our faith. We walk upon the traditional territories of diverse and sovereign peoples, the original people of this land who continue to cry out for justice and self-determination. This spot we occupy was first the sacred space of several groups of Indigenous people, including the Cahuilla, Cupeño, and the Serrano. Cupeño. We, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Riverside, light this sacred flame as the stewards of this sacred and holy place. We are blessed with the space and opportunity to strive to live out our common principles, to bring justice, equity, and compassion into our daily lives, to resist all that threatens the earth and her people, and to be part of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Let these thoughts carry us forth as we journey in worship together. Today's reading for the chalice lighting is The Spirit of Water by Katie Gelfeld. We light this chalice as a symbol of reunion. We reunite in the sanctuary to share the flow of our hearts with one another. We gather today in ritual to celebrate our fountains of joy, to hold each other through storms of grief, to guide one another through rapids of transformation, to rest together on ponds of stillness. Together, we honor the spirit of water in its many forms and its life-giving essence. We have a tradition at UUCR to welcome those who are visitors or perhaps returning after some time away. We know it can be uncomfortable to stand up and speak in front of others. So I will ask a volunteer from someone who has been here a while to tell us your name and how you found out about our church. We ask you to step close to the mic and speak and do it directly and clear so everyone can hear. However, be aware that you will be visible on our Zoom camera and in the recording of this service online. Do we have any church members who would like to volunteer?
Hi, good morning, everyone. As mentioned, my name is Alec, and I came here to Riverside. It was now, I think, 3 years ago, somewhere around about that. And that was, I came here for school when I started my PhD program, and I've been a lifelong UU, going from place to place. And this was at the top of the search results when I looked up for UU churches. And so that's how I found you here. And it's been a great time to be with you ever since. Thank you.
Thank you. That's how it's done. If you are new here, a visitor, or an old friend, please raise your hand to stand up and come to the mic in front of the pulpit. If there's someone online who would like to introduce themselves, please raise your hand and we will call you by Zoom. Please let us know who you are, where you are from, and how you found out about us. For any other new guests, please join us for socializing and coffee hour after the service. So to come up, thank you.
Hi, I'm Meg. That's my mom, PK. She's not gonna want to come up here. We moved here in late 2019. And before we got a chance to get involved in the community at all, everything shut down. So checking you guys out. What else am I supposed to say? Yeah, so we're local and thought I would check you out and see what you guys do. So
Thank you. After church service, we have socializing and coffee hour to the service. We'd love to chat with you out in the parish hall, and you can also find our visitors book. Please leave your name before you leave so that we know you are here, and leave your contact information if you want to know about upcoming events. For those online, the best way to get added to the mailing list is admin@uuchurchofriverside.org. We're going to sing now. Our hymn is 1064, Blue Boat Home. If the Spirit moves you, please stand and bow your spirit and join us in singing Blue Boat Home. This portion of our service is to support our beloved historical church. This can be accomplished several ways. In addition to the weekly collection, you may send your checks to the church address, which is shown here. You may contribute by PayPal using the QR code, which is shown here, as well as on the church website and this newsletter. Stater Brothers Market gives our church a rebate on Stater Groceries cards, which we will have in church each Sunday. Amazon gift cards are also available. You get the full value, and the church also receives a percentage for free. Please see Diana Rowe or Robert Braun in the church office if you are interested in purchasing the gift cards. Please donate as the Spirit moves you by whatever method works for you. Thank you for your generosity, and to those who give of their time and their talent, thank you for your generous care and attention. And to those who have joined us today, thank you for your gift of your presence. Will our ushers now please come forward to receive the collection? A bag will also be passed down to collect food and hygiene products to be distributed to those in need. Our next hymn is 402, From You I Receive, from the Gray Hymnal. Feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
Our meditation today is The Strength of Water by Jamila Batchelder and Molly Hausch Gordon. As I read this meditation, I invite you all to think of all the many forms of water that we have here on the earth, and also to think about which one you identify with most. If you'd like, please close your eyes as I read the meditation. The strength of water takes on many, many forms. Just as each of you has a unique and necessary strength that you bring to our community and to the work of love. Take a moment now to drop down into the deep wellspring of your own spirit and bathe yourself in the strength that is the groundwater of your person. Are you a roaring fall, wearing rock away with sheer force of will? Are you a tiny drop of water in a crevice, breaking it open, slowly, steadily? Are you a buoyant, great salt lake, practiced at holding others aloft? Are you tenacious like the mountain stream, finding your way down and around every obstacle you face? Are you still and calm like the pond at daybreak, offering radiant peace by your shores? Are you in touch with hidden depths, pulling from a vast well? Do you soothe like the stream streaming from a cup of tea? Do you dissolve away stubborn muck like water left in a pot to soak? Do you soften and smooth the edges like a creeping fog? Do you clear away distraction like a cleansing rain? Do you roll with the ebb and flow like the ocean waves? Settle your mind upon the strength, the power that is yours. Draw that strength into your heart. Draw it up into your soul. As we gather together the many waters of this community, we need each of your power, each of your resilience, each of your love to make us whole. Now let us pause for a moment of silence and reflection. And now I would like to introduce Alec Peck, who will be leading us in the ingathering water communion ceremony. Alec?
Thank you, Grace. In 1920, two Unitarian Universalist women, Carolyn McDade and Lucy Stuck-Longview, were asked to create a worship service for women in the religious continental convocation of Unitarian Universalists. As they shaped that service, McDade and Longview wanted to create a new ritual, quote, that spoke to our connectedness to one another, to the totality of life, and to our place on this planet. They included a new, inclusive symbol of women's spirituality, water. Water is more than a metaphor. It is elemental and primary, calling forth feelings of awe and reverence, acknowledging that the ocean is considered by many to be the place from which all life on our planet came. It is the womb of life, and that amniotic waters surround each of us prenatally. We now realize that this worship service was for us a new story of creation. We chose water as our symbol of our empowerment. The November service, held in East Lansing, Michigan, was called Coming Home Like Rivers to the Sea, and its creators, McDade and Longview, enacted their ritual in the liberating space of a semicircle around a large earthenware bowl. They asked 8 different women, each coming from distant places, to bring water, and they did. Water from the Rio Grande and Assiniboine rivers, rainwater from Maryland, water from the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans, and others were poured into the earthenware bowl as each bearer described its significance. As the ritual continued, says Carolyn McDade, water deepens in its meaning for us, just as water deepens during its long and winding journey to the sea. The Vessel of Compassion, a water communion story. Once upon a time, In a time that is both this time and no time, at the turning of the 9th moon of the year, 4 women journeyed from 4 different directions to share a moment of sacredness together. Each carried a pitcher of water from her home, embodied with the stories and emotions of her life and community. They congregated around an empty vessel, united in their desire to learn the stories and the hearts of one another. The youngest woman came from the east with the spirit of air. As she poured water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about the excitement of children being born, the music of laughter that fragranced the neighborhoods, and the bliss of young people falling in love. And she shared the story of her heart, and she laughed, and drops of liquid joy burst from her mouth and landed in the vessel. The 4 women paused to honor the stories from the East and the spirit of the women who shared them. The mother came from the South with the spirit of fire. As she poured water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about adapting to the ever-changing world of motherhood, the challenges of navigating family life, and the difficulties that her community faced in the transitions of leadership. As she shared the stories of her heart, a drop of sweat formed on her brow and landed inside the vessel. And the 4 women paused to honor the stories from the South and the spirit of the women who shared them. And from the West, with the spirit of water, came the sovereign woman. As she poured water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about friends and loved ones who had died, the grief of those who missed them, and the deep pain she carried from the wounds humans have inflicted on each other and on our world. And as she shared the stories of her hearts, a tear of sadness fell from her eye and landed in the vessel. The 4 women paused to honor the stories from the West and the spirit of the women who shared them. From the North came the elder woman with the spirit of earth. And as she poured water from her pitcher into the vessel, she shared stories from her home about the peace she found in solitude, the comfort she found in witnessing the changing of the seasons, the phases of the moon, and the renewal she felt when sharing her wisdom with those who would listen. As she shared the stories of her heart, a tear of joy fell from her eye and landed in the vessel. The 4 women paused to honor the stories from the North and the spirit of the women who shared them. And now, between the 4 women was a vessel filled with the waters of joy and happiness, change and transition, grief and loss, and rest and renewal, mingled together in harmony and blessed by the women through their reverence and their love for each other. The empty vessel of water was now a full vessel of compassion. Each woman took out a small container and filled it with water to bring back to her home to share the spirit of understanding and compassion with her own community. Rain falls upon the surface of the earth. Pulled by gravity, each drop begins to flow downhill. Drop merges with drop, flowing together into a trickle, a streamlet, a creek, a mighty river, flowing onward. Some of the water seeps down into the earth itself, as groundwater or deep aquifers where it will stay for days, years, or even millennia until it is pulled up again by tree roots, wells, springs, and geysers, rejoining the dance, the flowing, flowing, flowing. The water flows until it collects in ponds, lakes, seas, and vast oceans, and all the while the sun's rays warm the water, calling it back into vapor, so light that it can rise up, 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 each molecule moving on its own again, rising into the higher atmosphere, buoyant and swelling up to where the air grows cool and the water vapor slows and cools and begins to turn again back to droplets. Droplets find droplets and join together again and again, forming clouds, growing heavier and heavier until at last the weight of them pulls them down again and rain falls on the surface of the earth. Everywhere on earth, at every moment, somewhere in this cycle, cycles upon cycles, falling, flowing, sinking, transforming, rising again and again and again. Our planet has all the water it will ever have and has ever had. This water cycle has been spiraling around and around for 4.5 billion years. This means that the water we gather here today in our annual ritual comes from all over the world and from across all time of Earth. The water we gather today has traveled through the root systems of trees, long since returned to the soil, burst from geysers that ceased spraying a millennia ago, and flowed down rivers that have changed courses entirely over billions of years. This morning, we also remember that the water cycle doesn't only involve rivers and plants and clouds, but it also involves creatures, us. The water cycle cycles through us too, coming in and out of our bodies in many ways. And that means that the molecules in the water that you gathered from a body of water, perhaps near you, could have been in the tears of joy and sorrow cried by the first person who ever felt love. Or that's water from our church sink that contains within molecules that were once in the best chicken soup that someone ever ate, or in the sweat of people who built our church and our town, or in the blood of mothers that birthed our grandmother's grandmother's grandmother, or even in dinosaur pee. What and when and where else do you imagine that this water has been from? And as we gather the waters of community this morning, let us remember that they connect us to everything that has ever been, everything that ever will be. That is the power of the water that we share. The Archean Ocean is an ancient ocean on Earth, which, according to modern-day biologists, held all life on Earth. The residents of that ancient sea are our ancestors, and from the very first cells on Earth, we have been made of water. Our bodies, our eyes are made of water. For me, this service, the water communion, has been an annual UU ritual wherever I have gone. And I learned this summer that when the chalice was introduced to Unitarian Universalism as a symbol, each UU community was invited to speak on what it represented to them. This water that we have here represents the long, trickling creeks which are each of our lives coming together, you and me, here and now. This water represents the journey that you have had this year, and perhaps journeys that you took over the summertime and memories you absorbed along the way. Water is the element of change and flexibility. But just like our chalice, what is important but the most is what it means for you, for all of that is true. Each year, we gather in the fall, and it is our custom to offer water as a symbol of our connection to one another. We want to share with one another not only where our water comes from, but what it means to us, what it symbolizes for our own lives. Therefore, this morning, we will ask you to share whatever water you have brought in remembrance of four things. We share water that reminds us that while some have abundance, others struggle with scarcity. We share water that symbolizes travel, movement, and change. We share water that reminds us of life's storms, our concerns, our worries, our frustrations, and our losses. And we share water that reminds us of the well springs of our lives. This container, empty of water, reminds us of all who lack access to safe and affordable water. We dedicate our water as a symbol of our solidarity with UUCR and all of those around the world who are calling for the human right to water. We also recognize all those farmers who lost crops and livestock this summer because of the drought and the heat. Our water represents an awareness of scarcity in our community and our lives. The essence of water is the ebb and the flow of motion. Even still waters at rest have gentle and subtle currents, humidifying the air in that ever-present cycle. We are made of water, and we are made of the waters which flow through us on our way down the river. We dedicate our water to the changes and transformations of our lives, our journeys, whether spiritual or physical. We share water symbolizing the storms in our lives, the concerns and sorrows, confusion and frustrations. Allow this vessel to be one of receiving and healing as it absorbs your storms. And finally, we share water that reminds us of the well springs of our lives. This is the water that sustains you when you are feeling empty, the joy that gives you hope and buoy you up. And now I invite you each, one at a time, to come up to our altar. And we do have some water for those who forgot theirs or did not remember that we were having our water service this morning. And you can contribute one at a time to our water. And as you come up, please share with us. You can share how this water and this year's journey has transformed you, what you gained and what you hope to contribute, your hope for the future in this year, or you can just share this sacred space in silence. And the water that we have here, you can choose to take some home with you if you'd like, but we will use it to water some of the local grounds here at UUCR. Would anyone like to come up and contribute their water?
Good morning. Can you hear me? Thank you. Good morning. I'm Pat Kawander, and this summer we took a trip in the South China Sea from Bali to Singapore, and we stopped at Krakatoa, which is still erupting, and the water is virtual water from around Krakatoa, and we snorkeled in the ocean, and it was wonderful.
I've got water here from two really important trips I took this summer. Moving Bonnie, our old member here at the church, to Michigan. We spent 6 days driving all of her stuff to Michigan. And so there's water from the Saginaw River. She moved in Bay City, Michigan, right on the coast there where her apartment complex is. And there's also water from the Allegheny River in Pittsburgh, which is where I went to the General Assembly for the UUA. Got to spend a lot of time, meet a lot of UUs from all over the country. And the convention center was right there on the banks of the Allegheny River. So there's a little bit of water from there too.
So I've always found water to be very mysterious. It's the most powerful and yet the most familiar thing that we know. And my water is not exotic. It comes from the garden hose of my mom's garden. And every year it waters plants that grow into beautiful colors in the spring.
So I left my water at home, but it would have been water from my tap, my faucet, because my home is my sanctuary. And water from the church is just as good because this is my second sanctuary.
I brought some water from my Brita, but the water that doesn't go through the Brita, but the main water that comes from local tap water goes to my 3 new baby trees that I water every day.
In my rush to get here this morning, I also forgot my water just after I left started driving here. But it would have been from a rocky shore from Maine, the coast of Maine, near my step aunt's house, where I was this summer to spread the ashes of her late husband, and also to say goodbye to that house as she was moving out. And it was a very emotional experience.
For years, I traveled with my husband, and we went all over the United States, so many places with beautiful streams, lovely water, something that's rather scarce usually here in Southern California. When he passed away, my days of travel diminished, as did the introduction of some illness. But even though he's gone, I have the memories of the water we saw, the travel we took, and more importantly, even as I go on, I still drive a bit when I can with my leg. And this comes from a little advertisement here, Toyota of Riverside. But it's a recyclable container. Granted, plastic is a bad news situation, but I do use these little things and put water again in them and water plants in my house. This is water from Toyota. Thank you, Toyota. It shows that even if you don't have the chance to travel anymore to gather water, water is still extremely important, because as my daughter says when she calls me from far, far away from where I live, Mama, did you drink your water today? Thank you, Crowns Toyota, and some of this from a place that helps sustain the car in which once upon a time my husband and I traveled, and what he left for me so I can now travel to and from doctor appointments. Still, water's important, and you can even find it locally to sustain you and also remind you of those beautiful trips you took and the importance of water in our lives, whether we're traveling or whether we're just at home being reminded to drink our water. That's it. Long story. Where do I put this? In the big one or the little one? Oh, thank you.
Water has a lot of things, a lot of attributes, and those it doesn't have, we will attribute to it regardless. This beautiful lone water, which I will pour into the pool here, has the attributes of weight, time flow, location. The weight comes from the fact that just earlier today, ran into a couple of people on the blues that, on the line that seemed to have a bigger case of the blues than I did. So I said what I could to do, little damage repair, make them feel like they had some tools in the toolbox to work from. So here's the weight of water. As far as location and time flow, I've been, I guess, on my SSA for about a year now. So I'm looking at the world differently now that there's actually cash flow in the pictures here and there. I won't have the great vacation stories to tell, but surprisingly, I may have some small ones to go after. That there's still a dance or six left in me yet. And last, the location again. When we see those brutal pictures, like we're going to see for some years from now, water that isn't in the right location in the form of flood, or water that isn't in the right location due to drought. I hope that we can work with water and get it back to where it should be, and create a world that is kinder and more loving to it, that the water of human kindness should flow in some form wherever we are.
This water I have today, I gathered from the rainstorm this summer. We had a big rainstorm, and I gathered the water from the rainstorm from El Nino, and I'm contributing it to represent that I hope we have a wet winter from El Nino.
Our closing hymn is number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth, from the Gray Hymnal. Please feel free to sing as the Spirit moves you, and stand and body your spirit, and join us in singing number 21, For the Beauty of the Earth.
From above, over and around.
source of all to thee we raise this thy hymn of grateful praise for the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all to thee we raise this thy hymn of grateful praise.
And now please join me in reading this responsive reading by reading with me the italicized bold text that will be projected. This water is sacred. It is made sacred by the many hands that have poured it with intention and love, the many stories that each drop contains, the many lives surrounding it in this unique moment, connected by commitment and faith. This water is sacred. May it continue to flow through this community with shining reflections of the unique gifts that flow through each of its members. May it continue to nurture this community with sustaining hope that we journey together through ripples of growth and change. May it continue to bless this community with loving reminders of our collective responsibility to one another and the world. May its ripples be a reminder that the changes and growth within this community bring movement and transformation to the world beyond our doors. May its purity offer grace to our community in the willingness to forgive ourselves and one another when we make mistakes. In moments when we are confused or uncertain, may it bring us clarity of purpose and commitment. In moments when the reservoirs of hearts and spirits are drained by sorrow or pain, may it nourish them with the knowledge that we are surrounded by a deep and abundant love. Namaste, amen, and blessed be. Thank you, Alec, for leading us in the water ceremony this morning. It is sincerely appreciated, and we look forward to hearing from you again. Now we invite you to join us for refreshments and further fellowship in the parish hall. Thank you for joining us.